Welcome to today's episode of KM News. Today we will be looking back on the tragic events of 1941, since today marks the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor bombing.
As we know, America had much tension with Japan over this time period. What we aren't all informed about, however, is that because the United States feared that Japanese Americans on the West Coast could carry out acts of sabotage against military during World War II, the U.S., post-Pearl Harbor bombing, sent Japanese Americans to camp and stripped them of everything. Before we get into introducing our special guest and very own victim, here's a recap of what exactly occurred on December 7th of 1941.
December the 7th, 1941, and Japanese planes launch a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The bombing of the American Pacific Fleet catapulted the U.S. into World War II. The following day, President Roosevelt addressed Congress.
Because Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor, the U.S. government decided to incarcerate more than 110,000 men, women, and children of Japanese descent, regardless of their citizenship. Enough with the boring data. Let's go to introducing Chris Yoshi. Mr. Yoshi has actually witnessed his early years in this camp.
We are standing here on the land which was previously known as the Internment for Japanese people during the World War II. Mr. Yoshi, it's an honor to have you. Please tell us, how did you get here, and what happened on the day you were informed you had to go to the internment?
Okay, I came from a small Japanese family. None of my family members were soldiers or in any way related to the war. I was about 17 when this happened. I remember being publicly scolded for my race and having people say I was dangerous just because of my race. I was not even born in Japan, however, since my family was, I have to pay serious consequences. From what I can remember, I was given a warning with what date I would be relocated and have to move. Evacuation orders were posted in Japanese American communities giving instructions on how to comply with the executive order. Many families sold their homes, their stores, and most of their assets. They could not be certain their homes and livelihoods would still be there upon their return. Because of the mad rush to sell, properties and inventories were often sold at a fraction of their true value.
What was the living conditions like in the internment?
From what I can remember, I was surrounded by barbed wire fences and armed guards in watchtowers. The internment camps were located in remote deserts that often experienced extreme weather conditions, such as hot days, cold nights, and dust storms. Each block consisted of 14 barracks, one male lavatory and showers, one female lavatory and showers, one mess hall, and a recreation hall. This was common. Japanese Americans were forced to endure harsh conditions such as poorly constructed living quarters, poor quality food, and severe lack of privacy. But they responded with resilience. They created social organizations such as baseball teams and community newspapers, and even transformed the bleak environment by creating beautiful rock gardens and bountiful vegetable gardens. Aside from this, however, we were taken away the potential to strive throughout that time period.
Following the end of the war, when you were released, when did you return back?
I returned home to many goods and properties stolen.
That sounds extremely tragic despite all the negativity. How was your experience in the internment and how has it affected you?
I honestly have learned to appreciate life more. I've also become passionate about the treatment of immigrants in America. I've even led organizations and riots to prevent segregation of any kind. When the war was over, we were set free. I appreciated the fact that recently Congress passed and President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, which allowed for the surviving 82,219 Japanese Americans who had been incarcerated to be sent a formal apology letter from the president and awarded of $20,000 cash.
Mr. Yoshi, that's a truly astonishing way to view your situation. Tell us, how did you think this event has impacted you today?
Asian awareness has now been created across America and many survivors. To this day, Japanese people like myself and my family are very involved in fair treatment of immigrants.
Mr. Yoshi, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your life-changing yet very personal experience. Now here's some footage from the actual internment camps.
In unsettled parts of California, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, and Arkansas.
The Army provided housing and plenty of healthful, nourishing food for all. Their parents, most of whom are American citizens, and their grandparents, who are aliens, immediately wanted to go to work. At Manzanar, they built a lath house and began rooting guayuli cuttings. The plants, when mature, will add to our rubber supply. At Parker, they undertook the irrigation of fertile desert lands. Meanwhile, in areas away from the coast and under appropriate safeguards, many were permitted to enter private employment, particularly to work in sugar beet fields where labor was badly needed.
And that's all for today. See you next time on KM News.
Okay.